The newsday continues here on One News Now. I'm Riza Diaz. One oil company expects another big-time price increase on fuel next week. UniOil forecasts that diesel will increase by 4 pesos per liter while gasoline will increase by 3 pesos per liter. Now, local pump prices have already increased for the 9th straight week as prices of petroleum products hiked due to the ongoing tensions between Russia and Ukraine. The government has approved the 500 million peso fuel subsidy for farmers and fishermen amid the rising oil prices. Agriculture Secretary William Dar said they are now preparing to release the subsidy. But Dar admitted that they have yet to decide how much each farmer and fisherman will receive under the program.
Pwede na raw, sabi ng DBM kahapon. So we will sign immediately the joint circular for the distribution to corn farmers and fishers.
The Energy Department wants to leave it up to the next administration if it's going to use nuclear power as an energy source in the country. Faith Del Mundo reports.
The Philippines may soon tap nuclear energy as early as 2027. President Rodrigo Duterte, through Executive Order 164, established nuclear power as a viable source in the country's energy mix.
The choice to put up the nuclear power plant will be in the next administrations, not just this administration, but next administrations. When they see that it will be needed, then the framework is there already, and we have saved everybody 5 to 6 years of preparing.
But the Energy Department admits they have a long way to go. After all, the regulatory framework will still require legislation, and that would be dependent on the next administration's agenda.
Parang papatayo ka ng building, nalalagyan mo ng TV. Ito, parang bibili ka lang ng TV. So, mabilis, di ba? But the preliminary requirement here, of course, dapat nandun yung regulation on nuclear power. So, wala pa tayo nun. So, it can come earlier, but the regulations should be there.
The DOE says the nuclear power program consists of 4 cornerstones: the national policy, the legislative framework, alignment with international standards, and public awareness. So does this mean the Bataan nuclear power plant will be rehabilitated? Not exactly, says Undersecretary Erguisa.
The basic item here is energy security. How well it can help us secure our energy in the future. Number 2, since it is rehabilitated, the safety, safeguards, security aspect, kaya pa ba niyan? Yung cost niya, magiging competitive ba siya o magiging mahal?
So how do Filipinos feel about having nuclear energy in the country? Erguisa points out that in a 2019 SWS survey, 79% of Filipinos favor nuclear energy. He adds the move to greenlight nuclear power is centered on energy security. Erguisa says this must not be politicized.
This is a policy for the future. It's not just about putting up power plants, but we're preparing something that will be definitely needed in the future.
Though it was mentioned, Presidential Bet Bongbong Marcos said if elected, he wants to revisit and possibly use the Bataan nuclear power plant. But for Manila Mayor Isko Moreno, the facility may no longer be viable or safe. For News 5, Faith Del Mundo, we are One News.
We'll be back with more stories after the break. Keep it here on One News. You're still watching One News Now. I'm Riza Diaz. The Robredo Pangilinan tandem is campaigning in Bulacan today after a successful grand rally in Cavite last night. To tell us more about this, we have Ryan Ang joining us live from Giginto, Bulacan. Ryan, can you tell us what will the tandems be of activities today in Bulacan?
After visiting the vote-rich province of Cavite yesterday, the Lenny Kiko tandem goes to Bulacan to woo voters in the area. The Bulacan leg of the Robredo Pangilinan campaign kicked off early today. Robredo and Pangilinan went to San Jose del Monte, Bulacan to greet their supporters. After this, they will go to the Immaculate Conception Major Seminary in Giginto, Bulacan for another meet and greet and to pray the rosary. The tandem will also meet with Senator Joel Villanueva and Governor Daniel Fernando before going to the assembly in Malolos, Bulacan. The leaders of the Robredo People's Council of Bulacan and artists will also welcome Robredo and Pangilinan. And for the finale, they will hold a People's Rally and True Faith concert at the new Malolos City Hall tonight. Bulacan has over 2 million registered voters, with San Jose del Monte City having the most number of voters with 200,000. Risa, we are now here at Giginto, Bulacan for Lenny and Kiko's meet and greet with their supporters at the Immaculate Conception Major Seminary later. Meanwhile, more than 5,000 supporters are expected to attend the People's Rally in Malolos tonight. Riza.
Thank you for that update. That's Ryan Ang reporting live from Giginto, Bulacan. Meanwhile, COVID-19 cases in the country fell below 1,000 for the third straight day yesterday. The Health Department logged 853 new cases on Friday, 866 on Thursday, and 866 last March 2nd. The lowest case count this year was also recorded yesterday. However, COVID-related deaths remain high, with 232 recently succumbing to the virus. A Denmark study found that 1/3 of people experience long COVID. Based on a survey of 152,000 people who got COVID, nearly 30% reported at least one ongoing symptom between 6 to 12 months after infection. The study also showed that anxiety and depression were also more common among those diagnosed with COVID. The research published has not yet been peer-reviewed. The UN released its FAO Food Price Index as prices of basic commodities soar, a hit to consumers as Russia's invasion continues. Let's watch this.
Prices of food were already very high on historic levels. Frankly, before Russia invaded Ukraine, you mentioned that UN Food and Agriculture Index. It's already at the highest levels it's been since 2011. And remember what was going on in 2011. We heard Arab Spring sweeping across the Middle East, and in part, food inflation was a really key part of that story. So we expect prices to move even higher. Russia, Ukraine, really key to producing a lot of the food products, grain responsible for more than 25% of those cargoes shipped to the market, particularly strong in this region. We're looking at corn. Nearly a quarter of the corn trade comes from these two countries. So those are things you could really see in your pocketbook if this crisis continues.
And Simone, it's not even in the short term. I mean, it's the longer term impact as well, because as you mentioned, I mean, we're coming up on springtime when these farmers are planting. So prices are not likely to abate anytime soon for consumers, right?
Right, yeah, this is absolutely going to disrupt the key part of the planting season in Ukraine and Russia. And the fact that ships aren't even going there, people aren't even doing business. Even if suddenly ports were to open up in a couple of months, there might not be crops in the ground. And then the crops in the ground might not be there in part because the farmers didn't have money to go and put them in the ground, even if their area where they were was safe. But yeah, I mean, when you look at the long term, people can deal with high prices for a moment, say. But when a government is forced to eliminate its subsidies on bread prices, something Egypt has considered, that has a longer term impact. And it's going to change consumer behavior on the ground. And then add that into a rising energy bill. And this is kind of a real recipe for concern here.
Right. And Simone, do we know where this is going to be felt the hardest by consumers? I mean, you're in Doha, I'm in New York. What's your outlook when you look at some of the prices?
Well, wheat has been the one that's really in focus. And we've seen buyers of wheat from this region, in particular Egypt, Jordan, go to the market, and they have actually failed in some of their offers or their tender offers because the prices that come back to them simply too high, or there are no offers at all in terms of getting wheat. They have some stockpiles of wheat hanging out in the background, but those will last a certain amount of months. So then they're going to be looking to countries elsewhere in the world to try and meet that gap. How much extra product is out there is really the concern. Canada, for example, had a pretty minimal wheat crop come in because it had particularly dry conditions. And you can't change things like the weather. These are long-term things that take a long time to play out and be felt.
Absolutely. There's wheat and then there's oil. Of course, we have Eid and Ramadan coming up. So a lot of concern as people are using these products.
And those are the top stories of the hour. Join us later again at 1:30 in the afternoon as we continue to monitor the day's biggest stories. You can also catch One News on a Signal Play app. Register for a free account now at www.signalplay.com and stream One News live anytime, anywhere. I'm Riza Diaz. Mask on, wash hands, and stay safe, Philippines. We are One News.